Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we have another Strand Hunter build using Foetracer and Whirling Maelstrom, but with a twist. This time we're using tessellation fusion rifle, so we can spam its alternative mode and debuff targets all at once. It's one of the most underrated exotics out there, and yet it's insanely powerful when combined into a Strand unique nature. So if you haven't given this a try out yet, now's your time to watch this. So starting with the exotic armor, Foetracer. With this exotic effect, Relentless Tracker, it states, the damaging a powerful combatant or guardian with an ability temporarily increases your weapon's damage of the same type. Defeating that marked target with damage that matches the elemental creates an elemental pickup. A Foetracer isn't a great exotic to use for generally any kit you have in mind, if you don't want to go anything too flashy or complicated in setup. In this kit, we intend to use our weapons heavily and also make use of tangles with our aspect in hand, so nothing will be left over to not use. While there is many things you can go ahead and select, keeping it basic is the best way to go forward here, since tessellation will have two roles in the build. Now for the exotic weapon, we have the tessellation with exotic effect, property undecidable, and property irreducible, which states, this weapon, instrument, topology, adapts its damage type to match your equipped grenade. A finer blows grant grenade energy. Alternative weapon action, consume your grenade to load a large projectile, shape, language that generates an elemental explosion on impact. Tessellation is one of those weapons I have seen many people praise to be amazing and all sorts, and truthfully is a pretty decent exotic with decent elemental synergy. Being able to use it as a fusion rifle first, and then as a grenade launcher is unique within itself and can also make it work with pathway deconstruction for bigger damage over time. Now on Hunter, it works out pretty well, as we can use our feather generation and widow silk for more grenade energy and use our grenade 2 times within the build, which is ideal as it can give us more breathing room to do what we need to do. Under extreme pressure, the exotic can work wonders, and once you also unlock the catalyst for it, you can even open up your world even more. For aspects of fragments, we then have the following: Widow Silk, where you are granted additional grenade; Whirling Maelstrom, where destroying a tangle will weave a violent writhing mass of strand fibers that seek out targets, damages them, and emits unraveling when defeated. Thread of Isolation, where aiming at a target's weak point generates a large weakening blast on a target, reducing their outgoing damage. A Thread of Evolution, which allows Threadling to travel further and deal additional damage. A Thread of Rebuff, where strand weapon finder blows have a chance to create Threadlings. And Thread of Generation, where dealing damage generates grenade energy. This setup will be split into use of Threadlings and generate grenade energy for bolstering tessellation alternative fire mode as much as possible. A reason being is that a lot of these seasonal strand mods tend to link back to the Threadling one way or another, which we can double down on happily while creating grenade energy for the tessellation seems a lot more easier to do so for the Hunter compared to the Warlock and Titan classes. Looking at Threadlings, we have a few noticeable things that can help us out. Firstly, a Thread of Rebuff and Evolution is both going to encourage how often we use our Threadlings in and out of combat. Evolution being a huge must as it will increase our Threadlings damage by 33%, which is noticeable when it is not attached. We also have Horde Shuttle and Hatchling weapon perks, so this will overall allow us to create multiple Threadlings on action. When it comes to generate grenade energy though, a Thread of Generation is a good way to go about it, since it doesn't require much to activate it. We do and can use demolitioners based perks to also help, but honestly you can avoid this if you're using the Widow Silk, since the extra grenade can come in handy. Now this does leave us with the Isolation, which is a nice debuff modifier we can apply to targets, and can also use it to allow us to gain 2 shreds to become more active in the field with little effort required. And this is something that can be swapped out for something more personal to you, or could be left in, and still make a noticeable impact overall for the feel of the build, if you choose to. For mods and stats, we have Resilience at tier 10 for a 30% damage reduction. Along with the base stats, no Thread of Warding has been added, as we can make use of 2 shreds seasonal effects instead. Once the season is over, I would then recommend having it and perhaps replace it with Thread of Rebuff. I would also advise you to add the Element of Resistance mod for further safekeeping. Your discipline now, we have Arthur at tier 10 for a 1 minute 16 cooldown via shackle grenades. We are sticking with the following, as being able to suspend targets allows us an easier time with getting multiple kills with tessellation. However, I can see Threadlings also being used if you want to double down on what we currently have. Further expanding this, we do have mods to help bolster our effects further, but mainly Feather Generation and Widow Silk is where we'll tie everything together in a nice bow tie. With the stats and recommendations done, let's break down the mods we're using, starting from the helmet, which has power preservation, where using your super and netted kill will produce more orbs of power. Harmonic Siphon, where getting a matching weapon kill will grant you an orb of power. Heavy Ammo, reserved and scavenger mods for a heavy weapon. Impact Induction ×2 for a 17% grenade ability regen. Momentum Transfer ×1 for a 12% midi ability regen. Charged Up for a +1 in charge by light. Absolution, where all abilities are placed on a cooldown each time you collect the orb of power. Strand Surge mod ×1 for a 10% strand weapon buff. Time Dilation, where your decay and armor charge rate is extended. And Bomber ×2, where using your class ability near targets will grant you a 17% grenade regen. Now, as we covered our main exotic secondary earlier, it's time we go over the additional weapons applied to the build. What is shown is all recommendations, so please keep this in mind. For primary, we have Ruthless Fury with Demolitionist and Hatchling. This is a pretty amazing AR that comes chock full of unique perk combos to run with. Not only is its fire rate incredibly high and powerful against all enemy types, but its combo melds well into the build and how the build intends to use our abilities over and over again. If you can nab this weapon and roll for the build, then you'll be in for a sweet time, but for those that can't achieve the following, the Perpetual is a good alternative with similar fire rate but slightly different perk pools. For heavy, we have the Pro Memoriam with Hatchling and Frenzy. Keeping it classy, as this heavy weapon is really good when paired up with the strand based builds. It hits hard like a truck, it has good ammo economy, and perks like Frenzy allows this weapon to hit even harder for a long time. This is pretty easy to get, and pairs well with the non-stop firepower we are aiming for. The power tessellation can be on par with most heavy weapons once you get the damage buffs going, and flow grenades going as well, if you're successful in maintaining it. While I don't have these other catalysts for it unlocked just yet, it still does wonderfully when approaching and taking on enemies of all types. Using its alternative fire mode will allow us to take out swarms of enemies fairly easily, while also giving us grenade energy back for repeated usage. While netting kills can also create threadlings and tangles, to which for tangles combined with Whirling Maelstrom can further escalate add clear into max within the build. It's pretty straightforward, but incredibly fun to use, because of how chaotic it can get once you have tangles, threadlings and unraveling occurring all at once. Even more, you can use these seasonal mods such as Unraveling Orbs, Vital Weave, Horse Shuttle, and to Shreds to further escalate everything on hand and gain easy access with the metal. And while there isn't much downside to using the build in my eyes, I can see this being a problem for some who don't have the exotic fusion or primary weapon as it's raid exclusive. Now don't worry, as it's not limited down to just these weapons, as you can easily replace it with something more viable for you to access until a later date when you can get the weapons from there. So just like all the Strand Hunter builds we have done in the past, this one will win you over, in a new and strange way. So there we have it. I hope you all enjoyed the build breakdown. If you have any thoughts on the content shared, please leave a like, a comment and sub while you're here. I will leave a dim link for the build below, and if you want more stuff like this, then I have playlists available covering all types of builds you desire. It was great sharing today's video with you all, and I hope to see you again soon.